Okay, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 115 of Midweek Metagame. I'm Harry MTG, joined by my two regular co-hosts, Patrick Robertson
Hi.
and Gable Nassif.
Hey everyone.
Well, we're back. We're back. I think we've had a good few weeks of kind of not having the full trio on the cast, but, things lined up this week and went really well, so we're all here today. I guess to give you guys an update, I'm obviously a student at university, and I had a meeting with the head of Maths department yesterday talking about my dissertation, so now that that's kind of done, I should be back on track to be on the podcast. Pat, as always, you have your work as well, so that's kind of why there's some inconsistencies. But, this week we're here to talk about Magic, not about our lives. We're going to be talking about the new spoilers. The Kamigawa set is coming out soon. Obviously, those spoilers are being released. Break them down, see what we like, what we don't like. As well as always, Gav's been playing some Modern, Pat's been playing some Modern. I haven't actually played much Modern, or even just Magic in general, as I've been working a lot. So, I'll just be here listening, trying to ask questions maybe if I'm lucky, and then obviously towards the end of the episode, Gav's been playing some Arena, some historic formats, and wants to talk about that for a bit. But before we get into all the Magic stuff, as always, this podcast is brought to you by Card Market. For those who don't know what that website is, it's the best place online to buy anything Magic the Gathering related. Singles, accessories, playmats, deck boxes, everything. Go check them out. You can sell on there as well. They're really great. Cardmarket.com, cardmarket.de, check them out. As well as we should always thank the Patreons for supporting us as well. If you personally would like to support the podcast, best place to do so is at patreon.com/midweekmetagame. No pressure to do so, that's the best place to support us. As well as, why don't we chill out? Can you leave us a review if you're listening on iTunes or whatever? Hook your brothers up. We're here back this week as the trio. We'd appreciate it. If you want to give us 5-star, go ahead. 1-star, we don't mind. Just feedback is greatly appreciated, or you can tweet at us or whatever, as we're always trying to improve our content. But take the spotlight off me. Gab, you were telling me before the podcast started, you played the Modern Challenges this weekend. Why don't you get into that?
Yeah, played both challenges, was 4-color blink. I know last week I put my life on the line with the Glimpse deck, but I think what happened is I maybe played an extra league and it still felt maybe a little less good than I thought. I kept running into consistency issues and decided it was maybe not just deadlock, and I was impressed with the 4-color blink deck when I played last time. Played again, it was great. I was not so great. I went 4-3 on Saturday. Got paired against Titan twice, which is a tough matchup. Lost another one to, I think, some mistakes or some bad draws. I also decided to copy Canister's list with the Ragavans in the main deck, as well as 2 copy of Memory Deluge. I figured, he's been playing the deck for so long. He plays a ton of Modern, and I should just trust him and play his updated version. Unfortunately for me, I decided to cut the 2 Ashiok's Dream Render from the sideboard. Got paired twice against Titan. Who knows, maybe that card would have helped me out.
No way of knowing.
Yeah, should have played around it. And then on Sunday, I went 5-2, and my 2 losses were, one was a horrendous / totally comical mistake. I was down a game against Grixis Shadow, and basically what happened is they cast Kolaghan's Command on their turn when I had no cards in hand. And I was like, why didn't they just cast it in my draw step? They used the second mode to deal 2 damage and the first mode to get back a Death Shadow. And I literally could not figure out why they played that way, so I assumed they must have a removal spell. And I just missed the fact that they had to play it on their turn because they were bringing back Death Shadow, so they couldn't play my draw step. So that ended up costing me the game because I didn't dash Ragavan. I assumed they had a removal in spell. Oh, also they had bubbled me, so they knew I was drawing Ragavan, which was lethal. So I was like, well, if they're not saving their Kolaghan's Command to get rid of my Ragavan, then I have an answer to it. They're trying to bait me, but no, they just had to bring back Death Shadow. So that was, I don't know. Sometimes my brain does that kind of stuff.
It was spectacular to watch. That was one of the only matches I watched, and it cost me my mod status in the stream for making fun of you afterwards. It was just a catastrophe of overthinking, I think.
Yeah, I was not happy. And then the second loss was me timing out to white-black hammer time. I had actually lethal on board. I had an attack and lightning helix, and I was just a little too slow, good old pitfall. But I was super impressed with the deck. Just last time, it feels super good. I didn't get paired against Titan on Sunday. I did bring back in, I think I had a Nash Shock and a Dress Down in the sideboard, maybe something like that. I had a few extra cards for Titan. I did not go with too many explosives. I'm not a fan of that card, but in hindsight, I think it's probably a mistake. Canister has 3 in his sideboard, and it's not super flashy. I don't love it, but I guess it's just one of the best cards against Rhinos, which is a tough matchup. They can easily out-tempo you with Ice on your land, easily resolve a Rhino, and then you're behind and stuff to come back. They're good at playing that instant speed too. They have Dispute and Subtleties, and maybe even Endurance can be annoying sometimes. So explosives make sense. Also, I drew the one against Hammer Time. It was really good. It doesn't always line up perfectly against Hammer Time, and Dress Down is also pretty good there. But yeah, maybe I need to get over it. Explosive. I've also had good experience in the past in Omnath decks with explosives because it lets you do pretty cool things.
Engineered explosives has been a very unimpressive but super powerful card for almost 20 years now. It never jumps off the page at you. It's like, this is amazing, but it just does so many different things so flexible. 3 is definitely a number where it's kind of encouraging the kind of do I really want to be drawing 2 copies of this card in my first couple of turns territory? But not a card I would ever underestimate, I guess.
Yeah. No, I think it's especially good right now in Modern. I'm not sure if it's ever been this good in any formats.
No, I can't remember it ever being such a kind of crucial part of the sideboard plans for so many different decks. I mean, there's been decks that play engineered explosives and it's been good. I'm thinking back to KCI and stuff like that. It both doubles as a 0 out artifact, but also played a role of clearing out things like your Relic of Progenitus or whatnot that you're facing. But here it's just kind of so many decks have access to some number of engineered explosives because so many more decks are just playing to the board as well with cheap permanents, and decks have access to lots of different colors of mana as well.
Yeah. Should we go over the results of the Sunday challenge, maybe?
Can I just ask a couple of questions about the list of canisters and
Oh yeah, sure.
you played? So you call it 4-color blink, but what's actually blinking in it these days? Do you have still have ephemerates?
So I guess you're bling because of Urion. You could call it 4-color Urion or 4-color blink. But no witness, no ephemerate. Canister calls it 4-color, no bad cards or only good cards or good cards.
Yeah, or money pile or whatever. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So this is it's like Ragavans and counter spells and Ren and Sixes and every expensive card from Modern Horizons 2 except for Urza's Saga.
Yeah, I think I basically got 3 witness, 2 ephemerate, and a land. That's 6 cards for 4 Ragavans and 2 memory deluge. Right, and okay. Ragavan was very good for me. It was really bad against Titan because my opponent had Grazer almost every time turn 1.
Yeah, Grazer's a pretty good response to it.
Yeah, other than that, it was extremely good. Even when it dies right away, it puts pressure on your opponent, forces them to deal with it. So typically, it's really good if you're on the play. If you go turn 1 Ragavan, they have to deal with it. And then you go turn 2 Ren, for instance, against a Grixis deck. They have to kill it, meaning they can't cast their discard spell on turn 1, and you're free to resolve a Ren and 6. It's also pretty good at dashing the card. You have a lot of mana with the deck, so later in the game, pretty good at dashing, decent with Teferi. We've seen these cards play well together in the past. It's a red card that you can pitch to Fury. So yeah, overall pretty solid. Even against something like Hammer Time, maybe you get to trade for them to trade for an Esper Sentinel. Even if you trade for a Memnite, it's not the end of the world. So good card, and then obviously you get the free wins once in a while, even though people are super ready, and that doesn't happen very often.
Is it the sort of card that you're boarding out a lot, or does it stay in the deck almost all the time?
I wasn't boarding it out a ton. I was probably supposed to board it out against Titan, but maybe on the play you try and get lucky and keep them. Probably against Titan is even if you hit once or twice, you're probably not hitting anything that you really need. First of all, they just have a ton of lands, and then a lot of their cards are not that great or you can't cast, so probably not great. And then on the draw, you're probably supposed to board it out a little more, and I was doing that, but just having a turn one play is important, even against something that's, typically hammer time or shadow, just having something they have to interact with on turn one is important.
I really feel like it's just a powerful kind of fork card in the deck like that, where you really put them in an awkward position where how do they sideboard against you if they know you have Ragavans? Whereas like normally a kind of like mid-range play to the board, tap out style control deck wouldn't have access to something like that, so you would cut your removal spells and play more kind of interaction that interacts nicely with like expensive sorceries. But then there's just 4 copies of this card that really just hamstring your opponent and provide a must answer. I'm surprised to see you argue that you want to board out against Titan. I feel like that matchup's probably bad enough that you should just be leaning on trying to just mize them with it, because the mana advantage at least lets you keep pace a little bit better. You maybe develop while holding up a counter spell or something like that.
Yeah,
And you're
well,
just supposed to just take your chances.
you have a few cards to bring in, and none of your cards are super spectacular, but they're all pretty decent. So it's not super easy. I wasn't too sure what to cut. Maybe I ended up, also when you leave in Ragavan, then you feel like you have to leave in Lightning Bolt, which is okay-ish. Lightning Bolt plus Renin 6 kills a Dryad.
I certainly wouldn't feel compelled to leave in Lightning Bolt, but I understand the thinking.
Yeah.
I think I would just kind of take my flip against Razor.
Yeah, I don't know. Sample size wise, or in practice, I wish I had not had Ragavan. They just had Grazer every time, and Ragavan
Yeah,
did pretty much
totally.
nothing.
Yeah, okay, totally understand. So you pitch creatures are just Solitudes and Furies at this point, right?
Yeah, 4 Solitudes, 2 Furies in the main. I was playing Endurance in the sideboard because I really love that card. I feel like it's flexible. I feel like it's a card that gets much better after sideboard, even in matchups where it's not just, a blowout. It gets better after a sideboard against people who bring in Dispute against you, for instance. Being able to play really anything at instant speed becomes more valuable. Canister, I believe, had 2 relics to Ash Shucks for Graveyard Hate. So it's tough. There's a few cards you want to play. The burn matchup, which is popular, is not super easy. I had a couple Lightning Helix in my sideboard, which Canister didn't have. They're somewhat narrow, but you do bring it in other matchups. I think I was maybe even bringing them in against something like Death Shadow, does the extra instant speed removal, and Luris Answer, Ragavan Answer, etc. Yeah.
Surprised that there's not even one ephemerate, because when I played this deck in the past, I think I was only playing like 1 or 2, and any time I had it in my hand in this deck, it always felt great because of the pitch creatures and all the creatures you cast draw a card. Okay, Ragavan maybe not, but I've personally loved it, especially with 4 Teferi Time Raveler. Is it, I guess after the event, do you want to kind of go towards that, back to that deck building strategy, or do you actually like this list?
I don't remember. I feel like Witness and Ephemerate was pretty decent, but I'm assuming Canister just valued the consistency. Just have all your cards be proactive rather than Ephemerate that's powerful but all situational.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know. Yeah, I guess so. I think that makes sense, to be honest. But yeah, I personally I guess I just love the value of Ephemerate too much.
Yeah, there's, some decks are pretty fast, so you need all your cards to do something right away, and Ephemerate and Witness don't really do that. You also have discard decks that can kind of maybe pick you apart and make your Ephemerate all awkward. So I can see why Ephemerate got cut. There's also, Teferi Time Raveler, that's pretty well played cards.
How is that deck? How is this deck overall against the deck like Death Shadow? I think a couple of weeks ago we were talking about these Shadow being pretty good against these 4-color pile decks, but given this is trying to trim down all the situational cards, is it still a tough matchup, or is it tilting more in the 4-color deck favor?
I think it's probably slightly 4-color favored. I was losing to Grixis Shadow when I was playing the 60 card version. I think getting the extra Yorion makes a huge difference. Abundant Growth is so good, so good. It just fixes all your problem instantly, gives you kind of Blood Moon insurance. Super good. So
it's really funny that card's been such a sleeper for so long, and it just took Archives Astrolabe to kind of come into the format and then leave it again for us to get excited about.
Yeah.
Excited about Evolving Growth finally.
Yeah, I was half joking you get to play with banned cards in your deck. It's basically Astrolabe, almost. I don't know about better, but yeah. It's really good. You also get Ice Fang, which I believe was not in the 60 card version. That card's pretty decent against um, Death Shadow. So yeah, much
Yeah,
much
definitely an awkward
better.
card. Yeah,
Yeah,
so improved overall. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. The Yorion makes a huge difference. I was struggling to win the late game against these Lurrus decks with the 60 card version. I just didn't have enough value. I guess the two Mary, the Luge 2, they're a little slow. You don't always have time to flash it back, especially, but that gives you the just such a huge boost in the late game too.
The modern challenge.
Yeah, Modern
Yeah.
Challenge won by Blue White. I was surprised. I feel like Blue White's just so mediocre.
Hmm.
It was Ziyu Rio, which is who's just a reg who does well in challenges. Very often, I think probably multiple challenges win at this point, and he was playing pretty stuck blue white control list. Two Dress Down in the main, two Fire Ice, and I guess what wasn't stock was the sideboard, free Ragavan in the sideboard, as well as one Blood Moon.
Mm-hmm.
That is a spicy one. I didn't even notice that. So just leaning on that tiny red splash for just Fire Ice in the main, and then just supplementing it with a little bit of gotcha value with Ragavan and Blood Moon in the board. It's nice.
Yeah, I feel that's pretty strong when you're not streaming, when you're not playing with open deck list. You're probably gonna get people was Ragavan. It makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, definitely. This is like probably not only good for this week, I guess.
Yeah. I also really like Dresden in the main deck. That card's just so good in modern. Still like explosives.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely a card like Explosives that I haven't quite figured out why it's so good. There's like an extra copy in the sideboard of the Death Shadow deck I've been playing, and I just can't figure out when I'm supposed to bring it in. So I just cut it because it's too hard for me to figure out.
I mean, the easy one is any Urza Saga deck.
Yeah, but
But
then I have like what are my Alpine Moons for? Like what is my Engineered Explosives for? I have all
yeah,
these cards that are good against just as a Saga.
but even against you're playing against 4-color Bling. They play an Omnath. You play your Dresden. You didn't counter it, but kind of a big deal.
Yeah, the fourth doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it cycles. You can maybe combo with the Fairy Time Rattler. It's just another card you can bounce, even though the timing might be a little off. But yeah, just just really versatile card right now in modern. It gives you answers to something like Titan plus Cavern of Souls. Just
Yeah, its value against Titan is pretty evident. I have in the leagues I've been playing this week with Shadow, I've casted against Titan a lot. That's one matchup where I realized I should probably bring it in and figure that bit out.
you also don't really have a choice, honestly, or else you just lose to Urza Saga. You have Spreading Seas, but if you don't draw Spreading Seas for your sagas, it's kind of like extra copies of Spreading Seas, but does something a little different, gives you that versatility. I just love it, honestly. I'm almost surprised not to see more in the sideboards.
Actually, a reasonable comparison in comparing it to Spreading Seas, like rather than playing the fourth Spreading Seas, you'll just play two copies of Dress Down because it does the same job against Saga, and then it has a little bit more peripheral value elsewhere.
Yeah, you also don't always want to tap out for Spreading Seas. There's definitely spots where it can be awkward to tap out for Spreading Seas even on turn 2, and I mean it's nothing new, right? Instant speed value is huge in a control deck.
Yeah, I mean, I like this deck as kind of become the default kind of 8 counter spell deck, and it looks like a really like an old traditional blue white deck on paper, not traditional in the kind of modern sense, but it's like even in this Magic historical sense, just all these counter spells, instant speed stuff, solitudes, and then yeah, it's an aesthetically nice deck. I really like it. It's even got the little prison elements with the Chalice of the Voids. Yeah, I'm happy to see this deck do well, and I really like the sideboard deck.
Yeah. Rest of
One
it.
thing
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say one thing that's interesting is he's gone for no Hall of the Hall of the Storm Giants, just 2 colonnades. I personally have really liked the 1/1 split, so maybe he's focusing on having better mana or something, but that's surprising to me.
Yeah, I agree. We've talked about it before. I felt like anytime I've played blue white, it's been so good for me to have one of each. I felt like I had the right one at the right time, or when you have both in play, you get the option. It's something we've talked about before. Just the value of one of the values of the one ofs is when you draw both, you have both options instead of just one option.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm also surprised about Chalice of the Void, to be honest, because with so much Death Shadow, I feel there's so much main deck Kolaghan's Command, as well as like the Jund decks. Sometimes they have Kolaghan's Command in the main. I'm very interested in what they're specifically tackling. I guess, to be honest, like Chalice of the Void on 1 will be good against Death Shadow no matter what turn. So maybe he's just trying to hold up Counterspell as well, but it's interesting.
Yeah, lots of Cascade decks still in
Oh
in
yeah,
the
true.
meta. You need
Yeah.
a
The last couple of weeks, Cascade's done really well as well.
yeah, you need something a little unfair when you're playing blue white, and I guess
Mm-hmm.
Dress Down, Spreading Seas, and Chalice are quote unquote your unfair cards because that's how you can cheese people or get a huge edge in some matchups. We see they really respected Cascade. They have 2 Flusterstorm in the sideboard. I'm not the biggest fan of that card, but you know, with Chalice, I guess it can make sense, or just it's like a slightly better spell pierce against Cascade. The 1 mana does make the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
No,
there's definitely conscious deck building choices against Cascade. Been
yeah,
clearly made against Cascade with this deck.
yeah, they kind of have it all. They have 2 vetoes, 2 Flusterstorm, 2 disputes. So, yeah, no, I was surprised to see blue white win, but I do feel like the list is, as far as blue white goes, at least it's really on point. Except for maybe the second Colonnade over first Hall that's made a one card choice I'm not a fan of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, looking at second place, though, I think there's not much to highlight on how it is hammer time, but I want to say that look at that one of Ginger Brute in the main. I think I've been kind of saying how much I really like that tech over the past few weeks. I think people have been missing out on it. Well, I'll take my pride. One Ginger Brute in the main in second place in hammer time, which I think is sick. I think people don't value how powerful it is that you can pay 1 so that it can't be blocked except by creatures with haste.
Oh yeah, it's
I think it's
basically
a
unblockable, right?
yeah, exactly. There's only a few haste like creatures with incidental haste in the format that can block it when you activate that. So, I really do like Ginger Brew, and I think it's honestly it should be a staple in the deck in my opinion.
I
After
just want to
watching
shout out.
Ginger.
I just want to shout out the pilot here, Kate. She's from my hometown, Perth, West Australia,
Oh,
and
sick.
really, really good player.
Yeah,
Played a PTO2 in her time.
she tweeted about her result, and I think she gave a lot of credit to the one coming out the full soap in the sideboard.
Yeah, I was going to
Okay.
ask if Harry wants to take credit for the Kami the false hope too, but
But
But it's not even an artifact.
you
How
can
do
get
you
it. You get it back with Lurus, I guess. Just Miser's one of.
yeah,
You
just
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 hope
fog
you
lock
draw
them.
it?
just hope you draw it. Exactly.
Prevent all combat damage. So it's what for like
Mirror match probably just lights out in the mirror match,
oh,
right?
Death Shadow as well.
I mean,
I
Yeah,
any
guess.
creature deck really,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
yeah.
true.
I don't think I would bring it in against Shadow, but I like it in the matchups where like if you stick Lurus, it doesn't die, and so
Hmm.
you just set up fog lock against against decks in the mirror. It's pretty funny. But yeah, shout out to Kate for doing well.
Yeah, defo.
yeah, rest of the top eight: John Sagavan, Dredge, Blue Red Murktide was Fury, Oops Soul Spells, uh, Black White Stoneforge, Laplagian back at it, just crushing again, and yeah, just
I feel like we've seen a whole bunch more Upsal spells over the last couple of weeks. Is that just me?
yeah, Oops Soul Spells, Charvulture. It's the Sodek influence, I guess.
I guess it's also like the influence of less blue red Murktide as a kind of top deck in the format as
Yeah,
well.
I've definitely played that matchup a bunch, and I usually don't feel like I'm in a great spot against someone just casting a turn free Charvulture. Honestly, it's kind of dumb, but there's not that many ways to get rid of it, and
I was playing blue white and it was really hard for blue white as well.
yeah, it's pretty strong with stacked. You can just have if you have a couple packs, it doesn't matter. You can back up your Charlotro with as many packs as you want because you just untap, upkeep, kill before you have to pay for the packs. So these draws are almost unbeatable for some decks. For most decks, turn free Charlotro was like a pack or two back up.
Yeah, it's pretty unreal, really.
Um, yeah. Yeah, 7 and 8s were actually my two losses. Laplichan Wildlife Shadow, Sokos, Grixis Death Shadow. Enjoy the free wins in the Swiss. And then the one interesting deck was actually ninth place, and it was, I guess, reminiscent of something maybe Spike used to play, was Oswald Fiddlebender. Um, just kind of white red artifact trying to abuse Engineer, Fiddlebender, Stoneforge Mystic for kind of edging card advantage, and then you get to play the two amazing one drops Ragavan, Esper Sentinel, and then the kind of toolbox almost feels a little reminiscent of uh, not Card of Calling, the artifact, the band
Word of invention.
artifact.
ACI?
Word of
The,
invention.
no, the green one, the pod, just you know.
Oh, both
Oh,
of us, yeah.
Birthing Pod.
Yeah, you have your 0 is the artifact lands, you have your 1 was Chromatic Star, Barb Spike onto, or, Equal Railspring, and you just go up the curve. You've got, Portable Hole, super strong card right now, so that deck was pretty cool.
I'm really impressed with this. It's definitely maybe read Oswald Fiddlebender to find out what it did.
Yeah, it's a pod, right? It's kind of like a birthing pod.
It's an artifact pod, yeah. It has the ability Magical Tinkering. Yeah. I'm a secret big fan of Goblin Engineer as well. I really like that card.
Yeah. No, I can see it. I've been playing a bit of Blue-Eyed Affinity, and Portable Hole's really a strong card in the meta. Analysis gets out of hand, and you're just an excellent Urza Saga deck with all these cheap artifacts.
One thing I think is really quite strange about this deck, or at least strange from a surface level analysis from me, is there's no what's it called again? The bridge, ensnaring bridge. No ensnaring bridge in this, even in the 75. I guess this deck's trying to beat down and has to kill through damage, so maybe not so great. But I would have thought that the ability to at least tutor for it with Goblin Engineer or chain into it with Oswald Fiddlebender would mean that you will probably want access to it, considering you can just get rid of it later on with either of those creatures' abilities.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, maybe there's a few specific matchups where you could use it. I know that Titan's probably tough for that kind of deck. I was struggling with Blue-Eyed Artifact against Titans. I'm not sure if this deck would be much better equipped. So yeah, maybe get that bridge. Prevent them from attacking with Titan by you all the time, but maybe it's a little too gimmicky. And
it may be a little too gimmicky, and also just not very effective at all against Khan versions of the deck.
Yeah, just kind of theory crap that actually never happens in practice, or maybe just an oversight. It's not like super intuitive to put Ensnaring Bridge in your all creature deck.
No, that's true. That's true.
Can Urza's Saga fetch Portable Hole?
No, it has to be one. You can't fetch
That
Jealous
makes
of the Void. You can't fetch Portable Hole. It has to be literal, like 0 colorless
Or
casting
one.
cost or 1 colorless casting cost.
Got you. Yeah, I mean, any deck that can play Esper Sentinel and Ragavan in it seems pretty decent, as well as Stoneforge Mystic, right? You've got like 3 of the pretty heavy hitters on turn 1 or 2 in your deck, so this deck, it does make sense.
It is all must-kill creatures, yeah. I guess Sentinel, Engineer, Fiddlebender, Ragavan, Stoneforge Mystic, all huge targets on their head. Ask a lot of your opponent. I can imagine keeping lots of hands that have like 2 must-kill creatures and just winning against people who keep hands with 1 response.
Yeah. It's weird, right? There's not that many decks in Modern that play these 2 creatures. I played against a version of Hammer Time recently that was playing Ragavan, and to make Ragavan a little better, I think they also had Galvanic Blast in the main deck to try and clear it away. But maybe it was a little too wishy-washy trying to do the Hammer Time thing while having, you're diluting your synergies and stuff, but just maybe more focused, aggressive Sentinel, Ragavan, maybe a way to put counters on, almost like maybe, Luminarch Aspirant, maybe like Sentinel into Aspirant or Ragavan into Aspirant, give it that 1 extra toughness so it doesn't die to Ren and 6. Maybe play even Mutagenic Growth in your deck, something along these lines, like White-Red Prowess /
Mutagenic Growth. All right, that's pretty deep.
upkeep mutagenic growth my sentinel. You got to pay 3 more, or else I draw a card.
I'm pretty sure you can, because if they cast a spell, right, you can. If they cast a spell, you can mutagenic growth into the.
Yeah, I wonder if anyone does that in Legacy. Do you know what Bounty of the Hunt does, Harry?
Bounty of the Hunt. No, what does it do?
I think it's called Bounty of the Hunt. It's basically the green equivalent of Force of Will. It's from that cycle of Force of Will, Pyrokinesis, etc. And I think it's green and free, and you put 3 +1/+1 counters on spread like you want on your creatures. So I don't know why I just brought that up for no reason. Just as for Central Bounty of the Hunt, turn 1. Sorry, I just random train of thought.
The mind of Gabriel Nassif. I got you. But overall, I think this deck looks pretty good. This is one of those decks that I personally would want to try. It looks like it plays fast, and you have Gigantha as well, access to a companion. I think this deck makes a lot of sense to me.
It's like the
Yeah.
perfect content farming deck as well.
Yeah, I think it's pretty focused too. It's you're there's not all the one-ofs are still like kind of working in the same direction, and yeah, looks pretty sweet anyways. You
I
played a
find
bit.
it. So,
Oh, sorry.
no, I was just gonna say I find it so funny that there's actually a mill deck in the top 16 because I feel like I never see mill, but I see everyone playing mill hate in the sideboard. Like first place, you got a Kozilek.
Yeah.
Like, do you guys actually see mill?
Yeah, I've played against Mill, probably like 5% of the time, I would say, recently between leagues and challenges. So yeah,
In a long time.
Mill's
It's been a long time
around
since I
for
played
me.
against Mill. It feels like it's been a long time for me since I played against Mill. Maybe I play it once every 5 leagues or something like that. Not since I stopped playing Murktide have I played against Mill.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen this 11th place deck list by Trailovsky, but it's a pretty incredible like throwback deck. It's Jund Death Shadow, but it's like Shadows, Swift Spears, Ragavan, Scourges, Skyclave, Soul Scar Mage, so it's like prowess as well. Then it has full form mutagenic growth, 3 Become Immense, 3 Team of Battle Rage.
Yeah. Looks cool.
Full blown like just combo Death Shadow.
Feel like where I would draw the line is maybe Become Immense. I feel like you're pushing it a bit, trying to cast that card in that kind of deck. I'd rather keep it maybe a little tighter. But I do love mutagenic growth in these decks. And I think it's really good in the prowess mono red deck, for instance. I think Teamer Battle Rage probably in an okay spot right now. How often, like pretty much almost every game against Depth Shadow, you're like, well, if randomly they're playing one Teemo Battle Rage and they have it, I'm just dead there.
Yeah,
But
that's definitely right. I have found that my shadows when I'm playing Greeks of Shadow don't get big enough to really kind of ever warrant having a team of battle rage, but I definitely agree there's been spots where I was like, yeah, well, I'll just block these things. And if they have battle rage, they have battle rage. And this
yeah.
deck definitely has battle rage.
Yeah. And Scourge of the Skyclave's kind of a scary card. I know recently I've played against a card once or twice, and you're like, well, I don't think anything bad can happen. I think my hand's pretty good. I've got everything covered. And then you just play Scourge of the Skyclave, and you look at your hand, and you're like, well, call me that card in a million years, just GG. So that's not a pretty cool one.
An interesting trump in the kind of like shadow mirror as well, where it dodges unholy heat pretty effectively.
Yeah. A little surprised not to see Dragon Rage Chandler was 4 bubbles. You need this the delve for am I blind? Is it there? No, it's not.
No, it's not there. They've gone for Scourge and Soulscar Mage and Swift Spear instead. Yeah, that's definitely a card that I would have, if I was drafting a deck like this, like I was just gonna like write a draft list or something, I would start with 4 Dragon Rage Chandler in the main.
It does get
Well,
much worse.
Dart.
Yeah, you have Lava Dart. It does get much worse without cantrips. It's not as impressive. I know in historic there's red black decks, and sure you have like 12, 16 spells, but it's still not even that amazing. So kind of makes it also doesn't hit as hard right away as some of the other cards.
Yeah, this deck is definitely much like the 9th place deck list, is very kind of like focused around one specific thing. All its cards working in the same direction.
Yeah. And your allure deck. It's always nice.
That's pretty good. I presume that last week you would have talked a little bit about the bans with Spider Space, right?
Yeah, we talked about it.
Or the lack thereof for modern.
Lagerhoff, yeah, that was kind of my prediction. I thought it made sense not to ban anything right now. I thought modern was a good spot.
Yeah. I'm definitely in agreement with you. It would have surprised me to see them ban something, but I definitely think there's an axe hanging over Loris's head. It just has to be a matter of time, right?
Yeah, I almost would have been a little upset if they banned something. I usually kind of okay with whatever decisions they make, and but this time around, maybe because I was a little more invested in modern and I felt like the format was really in good space. Maybe you ban lures and good things happen, and it makes the format even better. But I feel like people are enjoying the format, pretty diverse. It seems really healthy. Maybe the best format in Magic right now. So why mess with it?
I definitely agree with that kind of if it's not broke, don't fix it. But it just feels to me like it's a matter of time before Lewis gets banned. I was particularly fingers crossed for no bans because I'd committed to building Grixis Shadow for this tournament I'm playing on Saturday. And so I like had my cards coming in the mail, and then I realized there was a ban announcement. I was like, oh god, really? Just spent like £100 to get the last thing they need for this deck, and they're just going to take away like the card that makes it entirely playable. Is this really going to happen to me for the first time ever? I'm gonna be one of those guys complaining about like, oh, they banned my deck, and that's
Yeah,
this is gonna be really embarrassing to have to become that guy.
yeah. Who knows what the gameplay becomes if you ban Lurus, maybe even ban Yorion, then all of a sudden it's back to maybe a little too much of not very interactive deck like Tron, the weird
Yeah.
combo decks,
It's just a Gigantha-centric format at that point.
more control. Like a little control is nice, but when control is the best deck in the format, I'm not sure that's like necessarily a great thing. So
Yeah, I'm certainly in agreement. I feel like it's got to be like all or nothing in a lot of respects. You kind of got to hit them all, or you wouldn't want it to be like Obosh-centric format, and then they ban that and it becomes like the Karaga-centric format, and then eventually it's like Lutri Tribal or whatever.
you just go down the line, you go down the list. Lurus
At
gone,
some point in
Yorion
time,
gone.
at some point in time, the black green one has to become playable or something. Like they're just
Yeah.
all creatures. Like get the companion.
It's like the old meme, ban everything till X is playable, then ban X, then like ban everything till
Exactly.
Wild Nikadal is good, then ban Wild Nikadal.
Yeah, banning the six companions and banning the seventh one or whatever it is.
Yeah, Umogi, I think it's called,
Yeah,
or
Mogi. Yeah, that's right.
something like
I
that.
think they're 10 companions, right?
I think they had one for each color combo, right?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of the ones that I think non plays.
Oh my gosh. There's that one that was like dominating Legacy for a while, the one that makes like activations 2 less.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
that card
that's
is
cool.
banned, right? In Legacy?
Oh, it's just banned?
I
Oh
think
crap.
so. And there was the self mill one that was saw a little bit of playing. Was it Pioneer? I think the deck was like semi decent in Pioneer, or was it Modern?
What, Gyruda?
Yeah,
I think that was really busted in Modern because they were like using Resto Angel and Spark Double and stuff to like flicker and copy it and just make so many copies and then
yeah,
whatever. Give creatures haste.
Garuda
And I
is
think it's
definitely
decent in Legacy too, right? Because you just mull to double Lion's Eye Diamond or something.
definitely
Cast
pre-nerf. Those decks were really really good because your one card combo is just hidden in the companion zone.
Yeah.
The minute you put a cost of 3 on top of it, you either slow the combo down or you just wind up putting it in your hand and getting it discarded or whatever. So yeah, you can at least fight against it now. But there was definitely a time when Garuda was just sick in Legacy and sick in Modern. It was even good in Pioneer, I think.
Yeah, I definitely think that every companion was insanely good when you cast it from the companion zone. But honestly, I think, we've talked about this a lot. My opinion on it now is I think that they're not going to ban companions, and I feel like they're going to use it as a selling point for Modern Horizons 3.
meaning what?
Ooh, like they're gonna have new companions in Modern Horizons 3,
Yeah,
even more
because I
sick than
think that
Lewis.
they don't want the messiness of companions in standard and historic, I think, and then it's a selling point because I think at this point now their plan with Modern Horizons just to always release a card that basically gets played in every deck that plays that color. So I feel like they're just gonna release more
A bold
companions.
prediction. I've I've got news for all of you, by the way. In 17th place of this modern challenge, there is another Oswald Fiddlebender deck.
Oh my gosh. Was that from Modern Horizons? Where is this Oswald Fiddlebender? What set is he from?
The D&D set.
What? What's the D&D set?
Dungeons and Dragons. It was
The
just
one
a
that-
standard
Wait, they
set.
released a
Expansion set.
set that's. Oh wait, is this the set that's only in Modern?
No,
or
it's a
something?
standard
Yeah.
set. It was just
Oh, is it?
it was
It's
just a
Oh,
cross.
wow.
It was just a crossover of Magic and Dungeons and
Dude, I'm
Dragons.
so disconnected. I feel like I'm not even playing this game anymore. Lol.
Well, it has been a while. Yeah.
Huh. I mean, I think that this card is it makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, these decks are all really taking advantage of it, especially going up the chain, as well as with Saga. So I'm not surprised this card is doing really well.
Yeah,
These decks are all motivated by Saga, I'm sure.
yeah.
They're going good.
I'm not the biggest fan of Thopter Foundry Sword of the Meek in general. I feel like it's just kind of all too hard to get together, and you get punished in so many games because you draw all these dead cards. Obviously, when it works, you got infinite combos Urza, but overall, I feel like you can play better artifact decks, and things need to come together nicely for these decks to work out.
I definitely agree that it's time as a kind of premier combo and Magic is past. Or at least Magic has left it behind.
I do like Gullet Engineer. I always felt like that card was pretty strong, pretty scary. So maybe this version is a little more proactive and more synergies, and things come together a bit more nicely. But
Just needs a Ragavan in it or something like that.
yeah,
That'll get it over the top. Should we talk a bit about Kamigawa spoilers?
yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
Right. So maybe I'll set it up then. Given that neither of us were here last week,
Yeah,
or neither Harry or I were here last week. Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, next set coming out. I'm sure it's due in a couple of weeks, right?
it's due. I think 10th on basically next week. Next week
Right.
online, and the week after on in paper.
Okay, really cool. Well, it's obviously a return to Kamigawa.
Or maybe I'm a week off because Lytheon also has 3 weeks in paper. I believe it was February 10th, 11 online, and then 18th in paper for the pre-releases. But anyways, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, sets out. It looks pretty cool to me from what I've seen of the spoilers so far. There's a whole bunch of mechanics returning. So we've got sagas are back, vehicles are back, enchantments matters are back. In conjunction with the sagas, and also the kind of general aura theme from original Kamigawa set. There's a lot of allusions to the old bits of flavor and stuff from the original Kamigawa, and ninjutsu obviously is back. I think we highlighted a couple of cards in our chat that we thought were reasonable. What format do you want to go through in terms of how you want to discuss these?
I think it's just easier if you just pick a card and we talk about
Right.
the card. It doesn't really matter if it's...
Okay, no worries. Well, in that case, I will start the conversation by talking about Discover the Impossible, which was spoiled today. So, Discover the Impossible is an instant. It costs blue and 2 colorless. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. Exile one of them face down and put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. And you can cast the exile card without paying its mana cost if it's an instant with a converted mana cost 2 or less. And if you don't, you just put it in your hand. So, impulse / like peer through depth style card, give you a mana discount if you find an instant. So like really good if you're like trying to jam looking for counterspell. Probably a little bit too narrow for modern and pioneer applications, but I think it's hard to overlook the idea of just getting that mana discount, because like if it's essentially 1 blue, look at the top 5 cards of your library, cast a spell. That's pretty powerful.
Yeah, it was good to me. I had a split second where I was like, wait, can you just cascade spells? But no, it's just instants, not sorceries. That would have been just kind of nuts. But yeah, counterspell, you mentioned it. Path to Exile, Fire Ice. Can you cast Fire Ice off Discovered Impossible? Probably not, right?
That's a question for someone with a higher judge level than me.
Yeah.
May cast the exiled card. Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
But yeah, I feel like Impulse would probably be playable in Modern if it was legal or kind of close.
Yeah, I do feel like even those like anticipate spells are like anticipate feels like it's like just it's well not just it's like significantly below the power level that's required for it to be playable, but it's not so far below the power level required that it wouldn't make the cut if it was improved in one way or the other. So like if you shade the matter, it'd obviously be really good, and if you added one more card to it, I think it'd be good. So yeah, I think Impulse would be definitely be playable, and if this card replicates a 1 mana Impulse often enough, it's pretty good. I think. One of my
Yeah.
favorite bits is like the restriction is like not there. It's not like you have to find an instant or sorcery. It's look at the top five cards, take one, but you just get a meta discount if it's a spell. And that's really good. I think.
Yeah. If you compare it to Archmage Charm, assuming you can cast both, it is like much worse because you already have the counterspell option on Charm, you have the steal mode, and in blue white, there's actually not that many instances blue white right now, especially if you can't cast Fire Ice. People won't really play Path to Exile, you play Endin, which is a sorcery, so it's really just kind of counterspell right now. And
Maybe a bit too narrow for standard as it currently. For modern, sorry, as it currently sits. It's probably worth mentioning to listeners that we're talking explicitly about modern and maybe discuss other contextual like relevance here, but we just mainly focus on modern power level cards here.
Yeah, I think, I see a few people in Twitch chat saying like, oh, maybe this will go in Storm, but I don't even see Storm playing the land one anymore. I don't know the name of the land, but it's like
The Lindy Visions.
Selendi Vision, yeah. So, and also I don't really see why Storm would care about casting an instant for free, because most of the time when you're casting these expensive, like look at the top whatever or gifts ungiven, you're trying to untap and win. So it's like you don't really want to like I don't know what spell you want to cast for value 2 or less for free instantly in Storm on like an end step. So I don't see this being very good. And you have the arcane one, the better one, peer through depths maybe it is.
Yeah, it's Peer Through Depths is the arcane one. I think if you were ever going
Yeah.
to play a copy of Peer Through Depths, I'd probably choose to play this first. It does do a pretty good job of costing 1 mana in that deck when you're in the middle of going off. Like maybe the difference between kind of like Serum Visionsing, trying to find a ritual, or just finding your ritual and casting it. Because if you hit Rider Flame or something, not Rider Flame, but like a Pyretic Ritual or a Desperate Ritual off of this, it's basically it's Dark Ritual at that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. I'm not a fan. Maybe it's okay. Maybe it's okay.
All right, all right. Well, why don't I just I'll pick the next one as well, unless anyone's got something that they
now keep
No, you
going.
keep leading. You keep
right.
leading.
Okay, I want to talk as a general kind of thing about cards that are called the marches of something or other, and there's only 3 of them spoiled so far, I think. But I would start by talking about March of Wretched Sorrow. It's a black instant. It costs black and X, and it says an additional cost to cast a spell. You can exile any number of black cards from your hand, and it costs 2 colorless less for every card exiled this way. March with Wretched Sorrow deals X damage to target creature or planeswalker, and you gain X life. So it's essentially a 1 mana. It's like almost a pitch spell, but it scales with like you can just pour mana into it to scale it. And there's a whole cycle of these in this set. I'm trying to find the other one quickly to kind of compare. The white one is 1 white and X, and destroy an artifact or enchantment with mana cost X or less. But do you think these guys, obviously we've seen free spells be pretty powerful in Magic history. Think these sort of things have any hope of seeing play?
I don't love the base cost. The Black and X has always felt a little too expensive. I think there was a similar card in Standard recently. It was one that had 2 modes. I think it was either like a Drain Life on a
Battle of the
creature.
Bridge. Battle of the Bridge.
No. The one
Oh,
that
Erebos Intervention.
yeah, exactly. And I think the other mode is exile cards from the yard, and that cost just doesn't feel good as a removal spell. Paying 2 mana to kill a 1 toughness creature, 3 mana to kill a 2 toughness creature. That's just too expensive. The cost too less obviously it makes it interesting, but it's still 1 mana to kill a 1-drop almost no matter what, and it doesn't. It's not like you pitch a Gristlebrand and you drain for 8 or something. That'd be pretty cool. I guess maybe that'll be a bit too good. So you
That might be.
Gristlebrand's just makes your pitching an 8 mana card just makes your card cost 2 less.
Yeah, I'm not convinced because I feel like already if you're playing black and modern, if you're not playing like Death Shadow, you're probably leaning towards grief. I don't think you want like so many pitch cards in your deck as well as like I don't. If it was lose life, maybe I'd be more interested, but gaining life as well, that doesn't really mean much, I think, so I'm not a fan.
It might be good enough against specifically burn, just because you
Sure.
usually don't care too much about being down the card, especially if you have other ways to get some card advantage. So
Right.
could be nice there,
Okay.
and
On the
yeah,
card advantage argument, the red one is March of Reckless Joy, and it's one red X instant, the same criteria, pitch red cards to reduce your cost by 2 less, and it's exile top X cards of your library, and you can play up to 2 of those cards until the end of your next turn. So it's like you can either end set, dump a lot of mana into it, and then just untap and cast 2 of the spells that you exiled, or you can use it to start going off in your turn by like discarding spells to keep chaining. That card seems actually quite powerful to me. Maybe even like Burgi or whatever, the kind of legend from Kaldheim that adds red mana and stuff. Maybe a deck that features like that card as well. I can imagine that being like kind of basis engine for a combo deck.
yeah. The fact that she's actually the first mana, I didn't see it. I felt like the white one was kind of okay.
Yeah, so that's March of the Worldly Light, which is exile a target. Oh, it's artifact, creature, or enchantment with mana value X or less for the white one. I thought it was just artifact or enchantment.
Yeah, I think it kills Urza Saga, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the white one is definitely one of the most powerful ones, but the red one is actually interesting to me too, though, because it's you can play it in like the Arbosh prowess deck, and
Yeah.
any Ragavan deck you can pitch Ragavan as well, like your spare Ragavans. Maybe it's okay, you know. I feel like during spoiler seasons, I'm always undervaluing cards, so I think I should try and have more. We should try and have a more open mindset, I guess.
You're,
But
you're definitely the pessimist, and I'm definitely the optimist in this. And Gab is the person who actually has enough experience to say things are different. Yeah.
yeah,
I'm always way off. Well, a lot of time I'll be pretty
Now that
off
I've read
to
the
stuff.
white one more carefully, and now that I know it exiles creatures as well, I think that card's actually quite good.
Yeah, no, maybe the red one's decent. The Ragavan point, the Obosh point.
Yeah. Okay. So I reckon these cards have some potential. I'm curious to see what happens with the green one and the which was missing, the blue one.
Let's you dig to a specific hate card. Maybe you see they play
Yeah.
a turn to Saga. You go dig for your Blood Moon or your Alpine Moon. I guess it works nicely with Seasoned Pyromancer too. Just you don't
mm.
mind the card advantage, disadvantage as much. The cards are exiled, obviously. You don't just get to discard them to the graveyard. But yeah, maybe it was Bedlam Reveler too. Red has a ways to recoup the cards.
Yeah. I was just thinking it's like a pretty good like non-blue attrition red deck spell.
Yeah.
Speaking of digging through cards, what about Reality Heist, which I've seen a couple of people in chat have been asking about? And given that you've been playing a lot of Affinity lately and casting a lot of draw twos, this is kind of like a souped up draw two. So Reality Heist is a 5 blue instant, cost 1 less to cast for each artifact you control, so it has affinity for artifacts. And it says look at the top 7 cards of your library, and you can reveal up to 2 artifact cards and put them into your hand, and the rest at the bottom in a random order.
Yeah, that card looks cool. I just thought of Thought Monitor when I saw the card, and I felt like it was just a worse Thought Monitor. You don't get the 2/2 flying. The other big downside is that card can never cost a single blue. It'll always at least be 2 mana, which can be huge. I was playing these artifact decks, and you have these turns where you go off playing monitors for 1 and 2 monitors for 1. Was Urza 2. So I have kind of a hard time seeing it, but maybe I'm being a little too narrow-minded, and maybe there's decks that are going to want heist over thought monitor, or maybe even both.
Feels to me like it's got to be in the kind of conversation for thought casts and thought monitors 9 through whatever.
Yeah, I already
The
felt
idea of,
like for
the
thought
idea of
monitor. Sorry, go ahead.
sorry. I was going to say the idea of casting this and revealing 2 thought monitors is kind of getting me a little bit excited.
Yeah, I think it's maybe a little too expensive for modern.
I'm gonna say this card is good, and I think that it probably goes in like I think it goes in but as like one copy because I think that it's like not bad, right? It's just 2 mana and you can essentially rebuild. But I guess no, it's not a rebuild because you have to have 5 artifacts on the table. So
You have access to a lot of artifact lines in Modern now with all the coming to play
true.
tap tools from the whichever set it was from Modern
Yeah.
Horizons 2.
It
I,
might-
I actually, what about in these like Oswald Fiddlebender Urza style decks, which play a lot of kind of innocuous artifacts to the board, but really are digging for important combo pieces? Like rather than playing Whir of Adventure, the tutor, and you just play this as an actual card advantage spell, where Whir could be kind of clunky 1-for-1.
yeah, I was gonna say maybe in a deck like Thopter Foundry where you're digging to specific cards, or maybe if you have a few one-ofs in your deck, you're only seeing 7 cards. Not like you're gonna always find it, but lets you get that kind of tutorish effect.
Yeah, we think 3 times a tried and tested look at the top 7 for 2 mana. That's a good card.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything that can compare like to Dig Tutor has to be worth a second look. And I think even given the challenge results we looked at today, there's been enough success of playing to the board artifact decks that it probably needs to get tried out at the very least.
Yeah, I think thinking about it, I think like there might be some sort of like blue white aggro-ish deck that's focusing on Frogmite and the 7, the 7 mana ones, and then you have like you have your thought monitors as well as just this like 2 mana get 2/4/4s on the table. Like I think it could be okay. And then you've got the new blue Springleaf drums, so you're getting even more mana too on the early turns. Faster Urza Sagas maybe if you're having 8 drums in the deck.
Yeah, I think that's good points actually. Maybe in these versions, the ones that are really, super affinity like, the ones that are trying to cast Frogmites and Mirror Enforcer, I feel like Mirror Enforcer is not the most exciting payoff. The upside of Mirror Enforcer is that it can literally be free. That one will always have the 2 blue. But yeah, that's a good point. You maybe go crazy, play the 8 drums was the new one, and to make up for the fact that your deck has a little more air, it also has more top end, and heisting into Thought Monitor gets kind of sick in the mid game. I could see that. Maybe that might be the best use for the card. It also instant speed, if you want to play Rebuke, maybe even Counterspell in a heavy blue version. You get to keep mana up and you get to do something if they don't play a spell. Yeah, I think I think that's the I feel like you have the best Harry had the best approach to the card so far.
Yeah, I
Let's
definitely agree.
go.
Yeah, that's right. So definitely interesting enough to give it a try. What about a card that's just below it on the spoiler for us? Hitotsugu Consumes All, which is a saga. It's one colorless, a black and red. And so chapter 1 of the saga, destroy all non-land permanents with mana value 1 or less.
Ooh.
Chapter 2, exile all graveyards. Chapter 3, exile saga and return to the battlefield transformed under your control. And the other side of it is Vessel of the All-Consuming, which is an enchantment creature, and it has trample. It's a 3/3 with trample, and it says when it deals damage, you put a +1/+1 counter on it, and when it deals damage, you'll play. If it's dealt 10 or more damage to that player this turn, they lose the game, which doesn't seem like it has as much text in competitive constructed formats, so it may be interesting in EDH. But the front side's definitely a card that has modern level, power and application, I think.
Yeah, anti-hammer time cards.
Boom.
Is there another deck that really gets striked by
I don't think Shadow really wants to play against it.
It's a little clunky, but it's okay-ish. You do get the extra creature if you get full value. Probably there's a lot of the black-red decks in Modern or Lurrus decks, and you can't play Lurrus if you're playing net cards.
Yeah, it's a big knock against it.
I know
I
I'm excited about that card in Historic because the deck we played in the last set championship, red-black, kind of mid-range value with Seasoned Powers and whatnot, Arcanist, really struggles against black green food. It's a really good deck, but the matchup against black green food is quite bad, and that card might be a great addition to the main deck sideboards.
Yeah, great card against Catavan for sure.
don't know how to feel about this card. I feel like it's one of those cards like that you just like want, and maybe you'll be a sideboard card in a few months' time. But like Gab was saying, I was gonna say as well, like Lurrus just makes this card seem really like unplayable for me because the decks that want to cast it can't.
Yeah.
Because the creature at the end is a pretty big upside though. Like how many sweepers turn? How many of your sweeper slash graveyard head cards turn into 3/3s at the end of it? I think it's not to be underestimated. I don't think.
Yeah. I feel like these cards are hard to rate the whole timing of them and how valuable is that creature that you get at the end that has summon sickness. It's tough. It'll be interesting to see. I feel like one of the better ones I've seen so far, maybe the best ones, is the black one that gives your opponent rats, and then you get you get your rats back. You get a I'll find it for you.
It's actually directly next to the card we're talking about. It's called Tribute to Hirobi. It's a
Yeah.
one black, one colorless saga. So the first two chapters are both each opponent creates a 1/1 black rat token, and then you flip it on the third chapter, and the third chapter gives you a 3/3 flying haste. And it says when it enters the battlefield, you gain control of all rat tokens, so you get your rats back from your opponent. And then when it attacks, you can sacrifice another creature and draw a card.
Yeah. I feel like that one's aggressively costed. You give them the tokens, who cares? It's cheap enough that okay, you're playing the second turn and not impacting the board or actually impacting the board negatively. But you get a flip on the first turn. Maybe you have had time to back it up with either a counter spell or a discard spell, make sure the way is clear, and that effect seems like you can snowball so hard if they didn't find a way to sag the rats. I don't know if there's a lot of decks that can sacrifice the rats efficiently before you get them back. Besides a
Yeah,
deck like
I definitely
Food,
like
maybe.
I definitely like the idea of just having my 3/3 flying haste, draw a card when it attacks, come into play when I've just untapped for free.
Yeah, I can't
It's really
imagine.
quite
Yes,
appealing.
I can't imagine a card like that being too powerful for modern. It's also an enchantment, so lots of enchantment hate right now. I'm assuming exile this saga, then return it to the battlefield, transforms. So the casting cost would be 2. I was
It's
thinking about
2.
explosives.
It's CMC2, yeah.
So I mean, I almost feel like this could be the new Smuggler Sculptor. That card looks really
Alright.
powerful to me.
Right, I didn't
Yeah.
really kind of read it as that being that good, but you've convinced me that it's worth trying out. That's for sure.
You know, it's a May, even if you don't have a creature, it's like free for haze, it kills fast. You can get it back with Lurrus.
Nice. Give them more rats. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, what about these legendary lands with channel? I feel like you probably talked about the green one last week with Spider Space. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, we could go over all of them. I
I
think
think going
they've
over
all
all of them
been
is
yeah, I think they've all been spoiled by now.
right. Yeah, they have all been spoiled by now. Okay, so well, I'm staring at one right now, so I'll read that, and that's going to be the basis for all of them. So this is the blue one. It's Otto, Ottawara, the Soaring City or Soaring City. It's a legendary land and has no type, so it's not an island. It just comes into play untapped and taps for a blue, and it has channel 1 blue 3 colors. Discard it. A return target artifact, creature, enchantment, or planeswalker to its owner's hand, and this ability costs 1 colorless less to activate for each legendary creature you control. So for Magic historians out there, will be unsurprised to learn that the card that actually became Snapcaster Mage. No, was it Snapcaster Mage or was it who submitted it? So one of the invitational cards that got printed was the person who won the invitational originally submitted a card that was an island, a legendary island with channel 2 blue 2 colors counter target spell, and that card was like laughably powerful at that period of time in Magic, to the point they just said we can't print that at all, and so it became they submitted some other card, and it was either Snapcaster Mage or Rakdos Augur Mage that eventually got printed. But that's kind of the inspiration for this design, I feel, of these sets of lands. Like it has no real drawback other than being legendary. It's just a free spell in your deck. Do you think these are kind of mandatory plays? They presume they're mandatory to play in Standard and probably in Alchemy as well, or whatever, if that's a real format. But do you think you make space for this in your like blue control decks? in
I'm
modern
definitely
vanilla.
scared of it. I mean, like, think of like the applications of all the blue decks right now. I mean, Merfolk will defo play this for free. Any Thought Monitor deck is gonna play this for free. I mean, any Urza deck. You know, there's a lot of just like, oh, I've got a billion mana, I'll just bounce my thing, recast it for value. You've got cards in the format like Ren and Six. I think that a lot of decks will just be playing one of these. Gab,
Didn't
what do
even
you
think about
think?
the Ren and Sixes.
Yeah, I can see most decks maybe playing one, but honestly, you can. There's just not that many decks that can afford to play basic lands right now in modern, or more basic lands than the strict minimum. And Hammer Time is the one that comes to mind that can play a bunch of basics and won't get screwed over by that card too much. But Blood Moon is a thing, and yeah, you just don't have room for extra basic lands. It's whenever you're trying to build your mana base in these Urza Saga deck. Titan decks don't have room for more basics. Tron decks don't have, you have so many good lands you can play, and it almost feels like they're like half spell, half lands at this point.
But doesn't it
So
answer Blood Moon for like bounces Blood Moon?
Only if you've got a blue source already. But I
Sure.
agree with you. Like, there's a lot of utility in lines like that. The black one is so it costs black and 3 color still. You mill 3 cards, then return a creature or planeswalker card from your graveyard to your hand. Can you imagine just rebuying your Ren and Six over and over again? Like, they just can never answer Ren and Six. You just eventually ultimates and kills them.
yeah,
Hmm.
I feel like maybe the red one's one of the better ones because it's not as bad against Blood Moon, still taps for red, and the effect is pretty cool. I think it's strong with Ren and Six, just getting the one. It's like a win condition, right? The
Yeah.
other
So
ones
the red,
aren't really win conditions. You're like they have like marginal-ish effects or
yeah,
okay-ish effect, but the red one just you make one ones,
right.
instant speed, get it
It,
back, make more one ones, never have to tap out, and
yeah. So it makes 2/1/1 spirit colorless spirit tokens, and they have haste. Yeah. Okay. Wow. Yeah. That's actually really really good with Ren and Six, and you can just bide your time. Don't have to do anything. Really good.
Mm, I think that these lands seem to be pretty free to play, but maybe I'm kind of looking at it the same way I looked at the spell lands that were once printed, when they're printed ages ago.
Yeah, but they came into play tapped. This is and
True.
these are uncounterable as well.
Yeah, I feel like they're just so good. I really like them.
Yeah. Also, for those of you who haven't seen the spoiler in its entirety, the green one is Beseiju who endures. It's 1 green, 1 colorless, and it's destroy artifact, enchantment, or non-basic land that opponent controls, and then they can search a later for a basic land and put it into play. And the white one is, I think it costs 4 still, and it does 4 damage to an attacking or blocking creature. I think that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, it costs 3 to cast. So it's like 1 white and 2 colorless, and it deals 4 damage to an attacking or blocking creature.
Okay. Overall thoughts? What are people saying?
So powerful that they have to get tried, I think. But where you find space within a format like modern is another story. That's my verdict, I think.
yeah, I don't think it's trivial to play them, and some of the effects feel a little underwhelming. Even in standard, honestly, when you play more than 3 colors, you've got so many good options. You have the split cards now, the double face cards. You've got demand lands, and if you're playing more than one color, you need to play a lot of dual lands and whatnot, and playing lands that make you have a lot of good choices for lands that only make one color and give you extra value. But yeah, I like them. I like them. I think they seem like balanced, good. They manage to not like break anything, I feel.
Yeah, I definitely. It looks like a good and sensible piece of Magic design. You can do something that's so on its surface level is just so unbelievably powerful, and make them being like, okay, I'm not sure if I want to play these or not, even though there is, if you tweak the numbers in one way or another, you're like, holy shit, this is just default. I'll play 3 copies of this legendary land, even though, yeah,
Yeah.
this is something that we're questioning the first. I wonder if any of them are going to be so good that you think about the second.
Yeah. Not sure, but it is a card design that comes up a decent bit. That sounds pretty exciting. Have a legendary land that taps for color and mana that comes into play untapped and also gives you a little boost. There's like, the cycle, the Minamo cycle, and then I think
Yeah,
Oboro maybe was its own little.
standalone. Yeah, but
What
it's yeah.
what are the other ones that already exist beside
So there's
the
like
cy- the cycle of first strike, fear, prevent 2 damage, untap, and what's the green one do?
the green one is +1. It's just tap green tap +1/+1 to a legendary creature. Akina.
And
Take a
then
look
and
at
then
it.
you've got a Boro. It's kind of
A
not
Boro.
in
Then
this.
there's a couple of colorless ones. So there's Hall of the Bandit Lord. There's the one that taps for 2 mana for legendary permanents and you lose 2 life.
There's Besage. I was talking
There's
more of the
Besige,
ones
yeah.
that tap for color and mana, that come into play untapped and tap for color and mana specifically.
I think there's only 4. There's one that comes in by tap. There's the one that's like uh, it taps for black and it deals 1 damage to you, and it turns into you have to like sacrifice all your lands and discard your hand, and it makes a 5/5 flyer for 4 mana.
Okay.
I can't remember if there's any else. I really like these cards as a kind of like thematic tribute to Kamigawa in that respect, because Kamigawa did a lot of these kind of like legendary is the only drawback on these lands, essentially.
Yeah.
Cycle of lands with effects. And also they seem to be balanced so well. I'm really impressed.
Yeah, it feels like they did a good job. We'll see. Maybe I'll end up messing with
Yeah,
things in
exactly.
modern, but I doubt
I just
it.
feel like there'll be Lurus Part 2 or whatever.
I mean, Ren's already so good in modern. Is it really gonna, make it? You already have cycling lands. You already have Urza Saga and fetch lands you can get back. We'll see.
No,
Eh,
when they print Ren and 6 into historic or whatever, direct into historic or alchemy or whatever, it'll break it wide open.
Yeah.
I had nothing else on my list that I really wanted to talk about. I mean, there's a few. There's the legendary dragons or whatever. Some of them seem interesting to me.
Yeah.
The black one in particular, I think looked pretty good. It has a full blown like reanimate death trigger. So like it dies and you get just bring back any non dragon creature from your graveyard to play. Pretty powerful.
Yeah. There's there's a card. It's called Spirit Sister Skull, and I know Enigmatic Incarnation is one of the best decks in Pioneer, right? And
It's pretty good, yeah.
maybe that card goes up the curve. It's a 5 mana white black enchantment for white black free. It says at the beginning of your end step, choose target permanent card in your graveyard. You may sacrifice a permanent that shares a card type with the chosen card. If you do, return a chosen card from your graveyard to the battlefield, and it gains. If this permanent would leave the battlefield, exile it instead of putting it anywhere. So you're trading your cheap enchantments for bigger enchantments. I guess you need to bin them, but in theory, you can bring back something really expensive by sacking something really cheap. So I don't know how that card fits, but it is mythic, so I got baited
Mm.
and
The fact that it triggers on end step is pretty good. Like if even just without having to play the enigmatic incarnation kind of toolbox package, you could just have a deck that tries to get an enchantment in the graveyard and plays this, and end step brings it back.
yeah, it might be a little too much setup to need to discard something expensive. It means you have to play expensive cards in your deck in the first place. It's maybe a little
Not a modern,
ambitious.
probably not modern power level, but at the same time, yeah, the fact that it's any permanent type is actually pretty cool. I think it's not like it's Ikcham. It's only you could set it up to be creatures. You could make artifacts or whatever. You could sacrifice a land and get a different land back for like a cheap planeswalker recycling. Bring back Nicol Bolas or Ugin. Yeah, I don't know, pretty cool card though.
Yeah. There's also a card that's probably bad. I figure we'd mention it because it's Tinker Lights.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Anchor Reality. It's blue 2, second artifact or creature, sorcery speed, second artifact or creature in the casting cost, and then you can get in your deck a card of equipment or vehicle, put it in play, and if it has mana value less than the mana value of the permanent sacrifice, you scry 2. So I think Caldera Complete is the first one that came to mind. I'm not sure if you can get anything that has more value than that in a vacuum.
Not off the top of my head. Maybe like Sky Council, Sovereign's Flagship, or whatever. The
Yeah.
boat.
Yeah, the boat, color complete. I don't know. That card's probably just not very good at all.
It's pretty hard to look at like a card that compares to Tinker, though, and not give it a chance.
Yeah, we talked a bit about the new drum. That's probably a worse drum just because it cuts color blue. But Harry was talking about earlier. Maybe you just pop up was um, the new card draw spell for artifact, and there was yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say it's not really like it's drum, but it taps for colorless. But I think the difference is it's tap just an artifact, right, or something to make the mana.
Yeah, you can. You don't have to tap a creature. You can. I think
Yeah,
it's artifact or creature you can tap.
as well as it has channel. The owner of target non-land permanent puts it on the top or bottom, so it's kind of like Aether Gust for any non-land permanent. I feel like I feel like it's a bit underrated because it's a flexible drum. Like I feel like when I play against Affinity and they top deck Springleaf Drum, I'm kind of laughing at them. Whereas if they're top decking this, they do have some use of it. I think that this card is insanely underrated in my opinion.
I
As
also
well
really
as
like
like
it.
you get
I love,
value out of like Portable Hole, tap that for
yeah,
mana.
I love that you can
So
tap other drums.
yeah, or
And your
that.
drums can fill other drums.
Yep. So I
And
think I'm quite a big fan.
yeah, I think this card's growing on me every time I look at it and think about it more and more.
I guess that's about it. I don't think anything else caught
Yeah.
our eye.
No, that's all I've got, but I think that's a pretty comprehensive look at what's been spoiled so far from
Yeah.
modern perspective, I guess.
I
Should
guess
we put
anyone
a
listening, if you thought we missed something, give us a tweet or leave it in an iTunes review. Gotta drop that in there. But
donate a huge amount of money to Harry and leave that as the kind of transfer receipt?
what? Well, okay. If there's no spoilers left, I think Gab, you said you had a lot of arena stuff you wanted to get into.
Yeah, I just want to touch real quick on standard. There was a pretty big standard PTQ. I believe it was won by White Black. It was kind of White Black dominated the tournament. Whether there was a bunch of different versions and all mid range ish. The version that actually won was all more creature heavy. I think it had Luminarchus Parent and Thalias, and it was also playing some of the good white black cards. But yeah, white black really strong. For those of you who don't know, standard got a bunch of bans: Divide by Zero gone, and um, I forget now. Faceless Haven gone, Divide by Zero gone, and a Layer gone, I believe. Blue Red still did okay. Blue Red still seemed like a player was Hog Breach Horror. You get to play, it's a little confusing now, but you get to play the real version, I think, in Standard. Whereas in Alchemy, you get to play the Nerve version. So Standard looks like, White Black's kind of the deck to beat. Blue Red's still in the mix. Maybe a few other decks that are playable. I've played a bit of Historic. New Teferi, new Balanced Teferi. Time Raveler, 4 mana was 5 loyalty counter, and the passive is a little weaker. It's only like they can't play spells on your turn, so they can still play spells on Arcanist. They can still play spells at instant speed on their turn, and that's definitely been relevant. But that card has seemed actually like playable. It got nerfed, but not quite as badly nerfed as something like Omnath. I played a bit with it against it. It didn't feel too terrible. In Alchemy, looks like Alchemy is a lot of Gruul Werewolves kind of the deck to beat. Black Red Midrange, Gruul Werewolf. That's going to be the two formats relevant to me in the next months, Alchemy and Historic, because that's the formats of the next sets championship. So expect more of that from my end in the next few weeks. But yeah, just figured I'd mention it.
The band's
Okay,
improved
sick.
standard? Do
Sorry?
you think the band's improved standard?
Doesn't look like Standard's necessarily in a great place right now if it's all about black white mid range, but we'll see, I guess.
Yeah, and it's probably not going to get played in high stakes for anytime soon, but it's kind of always curious to see what happens as this format shakes out. I don't think black white mid range would have been playable when you can cast Auron's Epiphany or Divide by Zero. That
Yeah,
Divide by Zero was so good.
yeah, I'm not sure how relevant Standard is to our listeners, but I think it is still like pretty popular just as in general format on Arena.
Yeah, I certainly would default to playing it over alchemy.
I've got a
Yeah.
hot take. I think Standard is the pioneer of Arena.
Secretly great.
You confused me.
Secretly great, but no one wants to play it.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
did we want a life on the line, or was there
Good life on the line.
cool?
yeah, Price is Right, life on the line. Let's go.
So something interesting, shouting out Card Market, is they now have pre-orders up for I think most of the Kamigawa set, almost all the spoilers. So I think if we're gonna do prices right, should be one of the new cards.
Oh, there's already a price trend?
There's 8 page.
Okay.
I'm trying not to cheat and look at the prices, but I looked and there's 8 pages of pre-orderable singles.
Okay. Wow,
So
that's yeah.
why don't we do the white prismatic ending?
The-
Sorry, like the white pitch one.
Okay,
I was,
so it's
I
a
was okay. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. We'll do that one.
What's it called?
March Otherworldly Light.
March of the Worldly Light. Okay.
March of Otherworldly Light.
Oh yeah, I've got it up now. Okay, I've got a price. It's a rare, so I'm not okay. I've got a
You
price
know
in
the
my head.
price of it now? Is that right?
No, I just wanted to get it up on Mythic Spoiler just to
Okay, I
double
was gonna
check.
say
But I've got a price in my head.
let me think
regular
about it for
rare.
a second.
Yeah, it's a regular rare, but don't forget it's pre-order. So
That's all right. No, we're not forgetting. Okay, I'm ready.
okay, 3, 2, 1, 5.
7 euro.
Oh, this is close. Okay, March of the Other World.
I wonder how much price inflates when it's pre-order. I mean, it's got to be more in general, right?
I
Okay,
definitely
well,
gave it
what was
more.
the answers?
I gave
4,
7.
5, and 7.
Okay, so the price trend is 12, but everything seems to be at 9 euros. So I mean, Pat wins no matter
Wow.
what.
I did
Yeah,
look at
it's
that.
pre-ordering at around 9 euros in the UK.
I can
This
highly
is
not recommend that price.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I have
to
no
be
idea.
fair,
This is on
Teferi
that
Time Raveler
lineup.
is quite expensive, right?
Are they mythics? They're regular rares, right?
Yeah.
12 euros. Wow.
Yeah.
Teferi Time Raveler is about 20. So I mean, if this card sees like a lot of play, I mean, it could easily go up. But yeah, I think that's very expensive. But if you want to pre-order them, go check out Card Market,
Yeah.
sponsor of the podcast. Shout out to them.
12 euro disenchant. I'll pass.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Life
but
on the line.
okay. Yeah, Life on the Line. For those new listening, don't know what Life on the Line is. Theoretical tournament tomorrow. Win the event, you live, lose, you die. Got to bring a deck list from every form we talked about today. I guess it's just Modern for us. Maybe Gab can give his insight on Arena formats. But in Modern, I literally have no clue what I
Even
want
after
to
our insightful
do.
discussion.
Honestly, I think I should take Kate's Hammer Time deck because I think I have about 10 leagues of Hammer Time under my belt, and hopefully I can just nut draw you guys and live. What about you, Pat?
Well, I'm going to play Grixis Death Shadow because it's the deck that I'm playing this weekend in a tournament where there's reasonable stakes at the very least. So let's assume that my life is on the line this weekend, and I'm playing Grixis Shadow, and I'll let you know next week how it went.
Oh yeah, you're going to the Axion event, right?
I am going to the Axiom Now event in Milton Keynes. So
Maybe anyone listening.
If Pat's not back next week,
I lost.
you lost.
Yeah.
All right. For me this week, it's super easy. 4-color Blink Furion. Deck's just so good.
No blinks.
No blinks. 4-color Yorion, mid range, whatever you want to call it. Good cards, no bad cards.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
Okay.
the deck's pretty good. Unless for some reason it's your field is all Titan players and maybe another or two like tough matchups.
Cool. Well, I guess to finish off the episode, as always, Gab, where can we find you on the internet?
Yeah, twitch.tv/yellowhat, Twitter @GavNasif. I'll be streaming the Modern Challenge on Sunday with 4-color Blink, probably. Not Saturday, I think I have friends over, but yeah.
Cool. I guess I don't know when I'm gonna be streaming or making a YouTube video. I keep telling myself like, oh, I'm gonna make a YouTube video, blah blah blah, but yeah, I'm lazy. So just find me on iTunes, waiting for you to leave a 5-star review. What about you, Pat?
Yeah, you'll just be clicking refresh like over and over again. I'm going to be snowed under with teaching for the next 3 weeks, so you can find me in this room at Hartford College desperately trying to learn various different parts of the undergraduate syllabus so they can pretend I understand it all. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, as always, if you made it this far into the episode, really appreciate you guys listening. Hope you guys have a good week, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Bye.
Take care, everyone.